press this button that starts the streaming so you can talk about
You,
Mother
you
3 or
can start.
Stormblood.
You can start pressing that button because I'm not going to talk about Mother 3 or Stormblood. They're both not going to happen.
Why is that?
Because I am limiting myself to make a show at least once, at least just to prove Poe wrong that we're capable of it. I want to own it, and I know you've probably already hit that button. Is the worst part about it. But you know what? Whether you have or have not, I still technically am not talking about it. I'm talking about the fact I'm not talking about it. So that is okay. I'm still okay.
Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I totally have hit that button.
Yeah, I know. I could feel it from the way that you kept emphasizing that you would hit that button.
First time.
Hello,
Hey, everybody. How's it going? First time I didn't do it, but then I was like, I have to do it. I have to press the button. It's like that button that says, like, nuke half the country, and you're like, will it really do that?
I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like it's more and more likely to be pressed, especially by me talking about those two subjects that I'm not going to touch today. So
I'm sorry, which two subjects?
I don't even remember.
Oh, just two of them, right?
One I think was like an MMO of some type, and then one was a Nintendo game.
I see. So just those two.
Yeah, those subjects.
Okay.
Not even gonna be touched in this conversation.
Not even touched, he says.
That's right.
Not even going that direction.
But if I was, no, I'm not doing that. Anyway, how are you? What's up?
Everything's fantastic here. Everything's good to go. We had a really good summer vacation last week where we just didn't do much of anything.
Nice.
So
that was kind of mine, although I did a couple things, which is mainly looking for work. Unless you all want to boost that Patreon number to an incredible amount, that's still something I got to do. But you know, it's going. The process is going.
That is something I'm going to mention before and after the show, guys, because in terms of it, our SoundCloud payment is coming up. So if you like to follow our account on SoundCloud and you like to catch all of the podcasts on one account, we need your help with the Patreon. We absolutely need your help. Otherwise, we will be forced to split it into different accounts. That's just the way it's got to work. I can, at the moment, cannot afford to drop $135, nor can Eric, nor should we, because we are giving this for free and we're asking people to help us out. So if that can't be done, come next month, unfortunately, we will have to split it into multiple accounts. So please, we might even do like a big all-day stream-a-thon fundraiser if you want, where we'll make Eric play really awful games and I'll play good games.
I feel like this is skewed a little bit.
No, it's perfectly fair.
And good and awful games are in the eyes of the beholder. Like, I don't think Last of Us is a great game.
Okay, that's what you'll play.
Oh. But everyone else will just be mad at me because I'm going to be like, I don't like it.
You'll just play The Last of Us and bash it, and everybody will hate you, and they'll
I think they already hate me now that they know the cat's out of the bag.
They'll donate to the Patreon just so we'll, like, do horrible things to you.
Well, you should play a good game like Shrek Super Slam.
If you want to see a video of Eric skateboarding down the road that has, like, lit firecrackers attached to it, donate to the Patreon. It'll totally happen.
Yeah!
Yeah, it totally won't, but still.
I'll figure that out.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started here. So this is the reset button for July 11th. We are back for vacation. I didn't do a whole lot. Eric did more than me because he's got things to do.
But nothing that interesting or worth talking about. But there has been a game that I think we wanted to talk about, or at least I did, because I think there's an interesting discussion around it.
Yeah.
That got released recently. The Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy came on the PS4 last week. I think it was last week, or it was a week before last. And
that I'm uncertain.
you heard the sales for this game?
I didn't until you told me, to be fair.
It is the second most successful game this year other than Ghost Recon. Now, don't ask me why Ghost Recon is number one. I imagine it sells to terrible people that just want to shoot people. But
good assumption.
I think it's a very, very impressive feat for a series that hasn't had a new game in many years, and the last 4 games were terrible. I think that's fair to say. Like, Crash Bandicoot went through some pretty bad times. Now, you couldn't have made a game safer than a remake of the original 3. But at the same time, with those sales, I guess what I want to go to the center of is, it's a good remake, but why do you think it sold like it did? Why do you think everyone played Crash Bandicoot and got... What do you think it's nostalgia? Do you think it was the price point? Like, what's your personal opinion on this?
I think it's a bit of a mixture of things when you consider all things included with this. First and foremost, it probably is a bit of nostalgia because, some people who are in their early and mid-20s now remembers Crash when they were little kids. So Crash is back, and that's something that really, tugs at their heartstrings, that they're able to go back and experience that again. I was almost a teenager when it came out, so I was just like, yeah, it's alright. I think Mario 64 was a lot better when I saw it there, but of course it wasn't out yet. But it really makes people say, hey, I remember that. It's got that feel-good moment. At the same time, it could also be because platformers are making a comeback here. The big one, of course, Mario Odyssey, is a 3D platformer.
I'm going to throw you out right here for this statement, because Nintendo lives in a unique bubble. Nintendo's been making platformers as long as Nintendo exists, and they always sell. But every other company gave up on it. So, like, this is the first time the platform is back, but
not from Nintendo.
From not Nintendo standpoint. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, like, you look at the numbers that Yooka-Laylee got, because it was just on the promise of a new Banjo-Kazooie. And it made a lot of money. Like, people were disappointed with it, but it sold really well in terms of that Kickstarter. Crash Bandicoot, however, is in a very unique position because Sony doesn't have platformers. If I have a PS4, I don't really have anything that scratches that itch.
You wouldn't consider, what am I trying to think of? No, I'm drawing a blank. Never mind.
Knack?
Continue. No, not Knack. Oh my god, that would be horrible. Clank. Ratchet and Clank.
Well,
there we go.
I'm going to use them for a future point, but I don't fully consider them a platformer because they're so weapons.
Fair enough.
It seems to be a lot more about the weapons you're using than actual jump and run kind of gameplay. But the semblance is there. But one of the other interesting aspects is the Ratchet and Clank remake did really well as well, but it was a $40 price point. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to think every game that gets a $40 price point seems to go way beyond expectation. And I think that might be the real secret to the sauce, is that it's the impulse buy. I think at $40, people are just like, yeah, 40. It's not full price. I can afford that.
Yeah, that's the budget title these days.
But it's not, is what's crazy about it, because the budget titles are just as good as the $60 ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's a remake for 3 games, and they're PS1 games, I'll grant you. But if you talk about the size, scope, and graphics of it, in terms of how much content there is, like, I would argue that equates to a $60 purchase.
Right, but it's
like,
it's price pointed at, like, the cheaper rate. It is the budget title price, but you're getting the better experience.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it an impulse buy. Like, on the other hand, Final Fantasy XII is getting re-released, and I'm not going to get it, or at least not right away. And I have 2 reasons. One, I just don't have money, so that's my main reason. But even if I did, it's $50 for one PS2 game.
Yeah.
Like, 50 feels like an incredible amount. But I'll tell you now, if it was 40, I'd probably just sell some stuff and do my best to try to get it. $10 doesn't matter. that much, but it feels like a monumental amount when we're talking about price. And I feel like 40 is that sweet spot for these impulses.
Well, at the same time with that one, I would even argue that that one could go a little lower simply because that's one. And like you said, with this Crash pack, you get more than one game in this $40. Now, granted, these are PlayStation 1 era games, but that doesn't mean that they're any less quality.
Yeah.
That means that you're getting more for your money.
I can account on my own time. I get out my PS3 constantly to play Crash 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love Crash Bandicoot. I think they're incredibly fun games. They weren't as advanced as Mario 64 in the same way. It wasn't an open environment. But what I think of when I play it is something like Donkey Kong Country. Like, very precise platforming with a vibe that I really enjoy. And I think it's refreshing to have that back. Now again, I have not gotten the Crash Bandicoot collection, but that has less to do with desire and more to do with the fact that I just can't buy games right now.
Right.
But like, if I had the money, like right now, I'm looking at it and I'm like, kind of wish I could get Crash. Like graphically, it looks pretty good, but honestly, I think I just want to have Crash Bandicoot on my PS4. Just as simple as that.
I'd like to have it too because I showed up late to the PlayStation era. Like, I got the N64 first, and then, like, saving up birthday money and everything else when I was a kid, I was finally able to get the PlayStation, but that ship sailed and you can only afford so many games when your parents have no money at all. So I didn't really get a chance to sit down and play the Crash games except what I played at the kiosk at Blockbuster, which you can't stand there all day playing that. They'll give you weird looks. But I enjoyed what I was able to play. So I'm with you. I'd love to get that, and at $40, I'm strongly considering it. Likely going to happen down the road. And the $40 price point definitely helps. But like I said, I understand Nintendo has been making platformers for a while. Sure, of course they have. But things like Super Mario 3D World, that was kind of niche. You know, not everybody went insane for that. Not everybody thought that was, like, the key. Now,
it wasn't the same caliber. And I wouldn't even say Crash Bandicoot is either. But if you look at the sales, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, like, I still think the new Mario is going to sell more than Crash Bandicoot. I really do. But at the same token, second most successful launch on the PS2. So I feel like if we're talking different audiences, the Crash Bandicoot audience is sizable. I don't know where they take it from here, but I think there's a lot of interesting factors in terms of why it sold like it did. Because it's not just, as you say, it's not just the Crash Bandicoot, but like, what if next we get a Spyro collection, which is very likely, especially after these sales. I wonder how it would do by comparison.
That would be interesting.
Would it do just as well?
I think it would do better, actually. I think it would do better.
Really?
Simply because, I mean, I don't know how many people can recall when the Spyro games came out. Because, again, I'm older, I know it, I was there when they came out, and I can tell you that I recall, even though Crash got, like, the better ads, the more advertising, the more marketing, I really think that people gravitated towards Spyro more, as I recall.
No, I know why you're getting mixed up. It was Crash 3 was when Spyro 1 came out. So they kind of like were brother-sister series. It wasn't that Crash Bandicoot was less successful than Spyro. It was more that, okay, we had these games and now we have these games over here. And they were just a little later on in the life cycle of the PS1. But they were both made by, they're both owned by Universal. And Insomniac and Naughty Dog, had Easter eggs in each other's games. Including a demo for each other's games.
Fair enough. I just remember people liking Spyro more. I'm sure Crash was more successful. It had more ads, more everything like that. But I just remember people caring more about Spyro. And that's just from everything I saw.
Anecdotally, as someone who's played both, I'm way more of a Crash guy. But I totally see the appeal for Spyro. I think Spyro is great. I just don't like it. I guess I don't like the character as much. and that's a dumb reason to think that. But Spyro's probably closer to the Mario 64 style game. It's a 3D environment that you can walk around and explore.
Right.
Crash Bandicoot is a linear haul with some backtracking and some completion bonus.
And with Spyro, that even showed up after Mario 64, so of course there was that kind of influence there.
Yeah. Still does things very, very different from Mario. And,
oh, absolutely.
But it was a different audience, so it had different desires, I guess.
And at the same time, right now, I think people are ready for that taste of platformer. I mean, you had Yooka-Laylee, people were frothing at the mouth for that. Turned out to be a bitter pill to swallow, unfortunately, but I think people are really ready for that next great platformer experience. And if they have to, turn to Crash to get that really good feel before moving on to something like Mario Odyssey, sure, why not? Why wouldn't you?
But what does that mean? I mean, like, these are old games, so for me, if I get the new Crash, even though I'll get this nice coat of paint over it, I have played these games so much, I basically know them from memory. Like, I know exactly where to jump at all times, and, I'm not getting that new experience. So my question is, what comes next, right? What would be a new Crash Bandicoot? I asked if they said they were going to bring him back and make another one.
Ooh.
Would it be another like that? Would that work? Because those games were really made. Because those games were really made for PS1 architecture. Like, that's why they're super linear. That's why they did this. It was actually because of the rendering processes. The graphics capability looked better because it literally only rendered what you were looking at the time you were standing there. So the background rendered as you walked, but you never knew because you're always facing the same direction.
Right.
So, like, would that really be what we want? Is another of that, or would it go closer to like a Twinsanity, or the game you've played, like a Mario, and make it more open?
No, like, I don't think people would want that.
I don't know what people would want for a sequel. Before Crash was announced, I was kind of poo-pooing it because I'm like, I don't know where you take it. I don't see what would work for everyone here. Because if you purified it, it would be really stale. Because they tried to do that. It was called Wrath of Cortex. And when that came out, everyone had the same reaction. Yep, it's another one, but not as good. It doesn't have the 90s-ness to it. It doesn't have the excuse to it to do that, and it didn't have the polish. But, Twinsanity comes out, and it's not the highest reviewed game, but it was a step in the right direction. It was more open. It kept true to the character.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't have the budget, and there were a lot of problems with that game. It was way too short. Like, it wasn't what it could be. And then the next two Crash games were just hot garbage. And that's not an opinion. There's a reason that the series died.
Right. It didn't die because it was doing great.
Yeah.
That would be absurd to suggest.
I mean, how do you compete with Naughty Dog, right?
Well, here's an idea. Here's what I think is a really good idea and something that they can use as a benchmark. So you were bringing up the idea that, like, it had the 90s feel, and we want to continue with that type of gameplay style, and how do we do that? Is it necessary to do that again? And remember that Donkey Kong Country did that with the Wii and Wii U. And it was great. I don't hear a lot of complaints about those games because there shouldn't be. They were great. They hit every spot.
I heard a lot of people say the words, "Why is Retro making these?" Because it's a step down from Metroid Prime. Like, they were great games on their own, but I just kept hearing, it's great, but it's not the same type of great.
Oh, jeez.
And I feel like if you went to most nerds, they'd say, I'd rather have a new Metroid Prime than a new 2D platformer.
Yeah, Metroid Prime was great. I'm not going to take anything away from Metroid Prime, but so was Donkey Kong Country. Anybody that was around in 94 knew that Donkey Kong Country ruled the world, man. It was there. It did it all.
I'll be honest. We played Tropical Freeze, and just in terms of game design, I think Tropical Freeze is the best 2D platform ever made.
Yeah.
I really too. In terms of like doing weird things with the design of the level layouts. I think they're fascinating. That game is great.
It was a love letter to fans of the original. Or even if you played only the one on Wii and you thought that was really good, they amped it up to the extreme with Tropical Freeze. So that's why I think if you take something like that kind of love and care, and you transport it into something like an updated Crash Bandicoot, you could make a game like that really appeals to original fans and people picking it up for the first time. But you have to be careful.
I know the company who currently has it, just from the reaction everyone's giving these remakes, gets Crash Bandicoot completely. It got what made those games great. It fixed the right things. Graphically, it's fantastic, but it got Crash. Because they added a lot of animations, and I've seen these clips. They've really understood what made Crash tick. So, like, if anyone's going to make it, I feel like those people would do a great job. They're probably going to do Spyro first, because I just see a new Spyro trilogy making way too much sense at this point. But I don't know. I don't know if that's even what I want. Because I gotta think that'd be 25 levels, because it's always 25 levels. Granted, you could do more than that. But, like, you would have to do a lot more variety in the environments. You have to do a lot of different things. Because Crash is a game of its time. It's a fantastic game. Not the first one, but 2 and 3 are fantastic games. But they are totally made within the limitations of when they came out. So, have you read any of the reviews for the Crash trilogy from professional journalists?
I haven't. I have not.
Okay. So I'm seeing 2 types of scores, and I don't know which ones frustrate me more. We're seeing 8s and 6s. Now, 8s make me mad because it's like, I don't know what they want. They're like, at the end of the day, it's an old game. So 8 out of 10.
I don't have a problem with 8 out of 10. That suggested it's a good game and you should buy it.
That is a fine score. It is just a confusing score, because if you're reviewing a remake, I feel like that should be your criteria of review. But then you have the 6 out of 10s that are treating it like it's a brand new game. And I heard the comment, which has been going around all around the internet, it's the Dark Souls of platformers.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, you're not familiar with this? Because this has been a meme on the internet everywhere.
I don't pay attention to
platformers.
Yeah,
it's
I don't
hard.
pay attention to dumb memes like that, so you'll have to fill me in.
Not a meme. It's not just a meme. I mean, like, I think it was Polygon gave it a 6 out of 10. Just talk about how hard the game is. Which, first of all, only the first game is hard. Like, I mean, I'm not saying they aren't challenging, but I mean, like, Donkey Kong Country is a harder game. And second, this is a separate tangent, but I was sick of the Dark Souls. It's the Dark Souls of, like, 3 years ago. Why is this still a thing?
I don't get that.
Because Dark Souls is like, first of all, it's not that hard. And I don't say that to be pretentious. 40% of people that played Dark Souls 3 have beaten the hardest boss fight in Dark Souls 3. 40! So, judging by the PS4 trophies. So the rates are really high for completion. And I think I realized why Dark Souls felt as hard as it did. And that was because it came out at a time where games kept holding your hand. I think that's why we use this expression. Every time a game doesn't give you a ton of tutorials and, you know, like, make sure you beat it, it's the Dark Souls of whatever. Because it's hard. It requires something of you. Like, it's embarrassing at this point, because these games have nothing. The only game I think that can truly have a Dark Souls comparison, ironically enough, was Metroid Prime. But not because of its difficulty. I just think I think Dark Souls kind of looked at it for inspiration for storytelling. I think scanning and the way Dark Souls handles its lore are very hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what the fuck does Crash Bandicoot have to do with a role playing game?
Yeah, I don't get how they would, like, just crap on it simply because they perceive it to be difficult. Because if they perceive that to be difficult, they would be having a field day with the stuff I've been playing the past week. It's been mostly all NES games. So, yeah, NES hard, it's a real thing. They would not be happy if they were, with me playing games.
I grant you, the first Crash Bandicoot is bullshit. The first Crash Bandicoot was not designed for the player. It was designed for the developer that was just trying to one-up themselves, and the difficulty is way too high. But the first Crash Bandicoot is also not a good game. But the sequels, on the other hand, are like totally fair, and I do not buy that excuse.
Okay, let's go with the idea that what you're saying, it's your opinion, but let's just say what you're saying is absolutely true in every sense of the word. Is this package not a package that comes with 1, 2, 3 games that they should be considering for this score?
It comes with 3 games that you can choose between at any point. You don't have to unlock them.
Okay.
Maybe I'm softer on it because I look at it as a trilogy collection. I think there's only so much you can do. I did hear, however, they have some assistance to help with bad players. There's some interesting things I like. Like, the base level gameplay of Crash Bandicoot, right? I don't have to explain how Crash works. Okay. So one of the interesting things is if you die too many times, lose 20 of your lives, then it'll turn the next group of boxes into a checkpoint. Just give you a checkpoint earlier on. But you still have to earn your way up there.
Okay.
And it seems like a good compromise between you still beat it on your own, but we're not going to leave you completely hanging. And then it'll be like, do you want an extra hit? You lose 5 lives, you'll get an Aku Aku. Lose 10, you get 2. Although I think that was also true in Crash 2 and 3. But they added it to 1. Because again, 1 was not that good of a game.
Right. Basically, it starts to get a little hand-holdy if you're having problems. Similar to Super Mario 3D World, which comes in handy in the post-game levels.
Right.
Okay.
But it's still, it doesn't beat it for you. You still have to earn it. I feel like it's the fairest way to do it. It's like, we'll give you just enough so that you can get farther, but you have to still make that jump that you're dying at to get to that checkpoint.
Yeah.
Which
I have
is
no
as
problem
much
with that.
as you can ask for.
Yeah, I have no problem with that at all. But back to the idea of the score with the 6 out of 10, I don't really like that, because that suggests if you can rent it, maybe you should rent it or wait until there's a sale.
I'll grant you could wait for a sale. I'm not gonna pick on people who do that.
Well, it could be the greatest game ever, and you could wait for a sale. I'm just not sure if I like 6 out of 10.
Well, my problem with 6 out of 10 is that it's reviewing them like they're all brand new games. I get it's a collection and a remake of games, but then shouldn't you be the fact that it's a remake in comparison rather than just as standalone products?
And do they break it down to explain why it gets a 6 out of 10? Do they...
Mostly difficulty complaints.
Mostly difficulty. Do they say that 1's difficult, but 2 and 3 are not? Or what's exactly being said?
Do not clarify about which Crash is too difficult. I imagine they just played the first game. I don't think they played 2 and 3. Or there is the possibility that they just suck. And that they played 2 and 3 and they just didn't get very far. But what's interesting about the difficulty for 2 or 3, that what makes that game okay on difficulty is that while it is hard as shit, beating the game is kind of easy. 100%ing the game to get the true ending is hard.
Okay.
So you can get through it and get all the crystals, and then you're going to have a decent challenge, but mostly fair. But if you want to do 100%, there are some absolutely brutal moments. But it's fair because you're going for 100% completion. You're earning the extra work, and you're trying to make that happen.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a fair way to balance it. 100% means to me that you have completely dominated the game. That is not a right given to you to dominate 100% a game. It's like saying a game... I've never seen a score go down for not giving you a trophy because all the trophies are kind of hard. You know? But that's kind of effectively what's going on here.
That's just like back in the day, using Donkey Kong Country as an example one more time. You could 100% Donkey Kong Country if you were good enough. it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be a
I
walk in the park.
Donkey Kong Country, the original, is way too hard for me. I could never get good at it.
Yeah, it's difficult to 100% that. I think that the closest I ever got was like 80-something. And yeah, I just don't see it happening. But that's, to go with the point that you're making, if you're going to 100% something, you're going to have to put the work in. It shouldn't just be handed to you.
Yeah. And in those
and
games,
that's fine.
of those days, that's what they did. That was that era. They didn't care if you beat the game. They wanted you to play it and enjoy the hell out of it. And find secrets. That's a word that I feel like's missing from games now. Secrets. Like, I know Zelda has it, but Crash Bandicoot was like one of the first because it was before the internet. Like, to get 100%, you had to do some weird shit. Like, you would have to jump on areas that you wouldn't expect to go. Or backtrack an entire...
Granted, in Donkey Kong Country, you had to do the same. I mean, not to keep harping on that, but I feel the Crash actually used stuff like Donkey Kong Country as an idea on how to do certain things.
I feel like they're very much in the same ballpark. I consider Donkey Kong Country a very good comparison for Crash.
Okay, fair enough.
So, like, I don't have any problem with the comparison, because it's usually, when people ask me what type of platformer it is, I always end up comparing it to Donkey Kong Country. But with a little more work, I'd say. Not in terms of difficulty, but, like, objectives. Because there might be, like, a gem of a color that you need to get 100% in this area, or you might have to go to a path in one level to end up in another level. So there's a little more extra stuff there.
Right.
And again, this all accounts for 2 and 3. Crash 1, I barely play it because it's not a good game, but it also didn't have that design either. Crash 1 was very much a game where it was like, hey, if you can do it, get 3 of this item, and then you'll have a bonus round, and if you beat that, you can save the game. Which was unbelievably cruel. Especially later on.
All right.
I'm going on tangents.
Any last words on Crash?
I haven't played it.
I haven't played it
but
either.
I know it's interesting.
I am deeply wanting to play also Crash Team Racing. That would also be great.
That's getting a remaster as well.
Yep.
And I feel like that is the game that made Mario Kart way better.
Yep.
Because you wouldn't have drifting without it.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Can't wait to see that come out there. Moving on, Capcom and how they aren't doing shit lately.
So I don't know if you've been watching trailers for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, whatever.
I know that they've made some weird changes.
So, before we get to that point, graphically, this game is horrendous. There are some pictures that compare the character models, and whew! Chun-Li is one of the worst-looking character models seen in an action, like in a fighting game. Dante, his hair looks like a wig. It's not good. I think what's interesting now is we exist in a time where fighting games are the best they've ever been, and yet, for some reason, the reigning champ of fighting games, which was Capcom, has just been making one terrible move after another. In a PR interview for the new Marvel, people asked why Wolverine wasn't going to be in it, and their answer was, if you like the X-Men characters, first of all, kids don't know who X-Men are. So, because Marvel hasn't made a movie of them.
Oh, of
that
course.
was a real statement. And also, for the pro players, don't worry, their functions are still in the game through other characters. So in a game called Marvel vs. Capcom, functions are now more important than characters.
I don't know about that.
I don't understand if you just compare this game to just Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which is available on PS4 and PC, and, it's such a step down in every way.
I just looked at some of the screenshots when you were telling me that, and you're right. The character models, they do not look good. I also heard that they're reducing it to two characters per team instead of 3.
Now, they have competition from this game called Dragon Ball FighterZ, And everyone is just saying it is made to just take away the Capcom money because it looks not only amazing as a game, it's Arc System Works making this fighting game,
Yes.
but it's also 3-on-3. So, like, that game is now taking every little bit of hype from Marvel vs. Capcom. But what I think's interesting is that Street Fighter was this game, Street Fighter V. I actually like Street Fighter V, as you know, and that was surprising to me. But I think it's safe to say you've been following the development of this game and the sales of this game and the way
Yes.
they've treated this game and the fan base. It was not a success for Capcom in the way that they expected and continue to fail at.
Well, they
game-
can't get the ball rolling. If it's not for the Capcom Cup and like what they're doing with like ESPN or whatnot, no one cares. Everybody's
Their
moved
Evo
on
numbers
to more
are
fun
50%
games.
down. The game's made for, like, I look at Marvel, it's also way more for a casual audience in terms of gameplay. So it's taking the esport element out of it, but the casual people don't like these games because it doesn't have anything for them. I feel really sorry for Capcom because other than Monster Hunter, it seems like they fucked up every single thing they have. Now, they fixed Resident Evil with 7,
Yes.
but you gotta admit, that was also fucked for a very long amount of time.
Oh, that's
and,
been fucked for years. They just got to fixing it.
Yeah, with one game.
Yeah.
You could always refuck it. And I still haven't gotten my DLC, by the way.
Yeah, the DLC that was
free
supposed to show up 2 months ago.
In spring.
Yeah. Where the hell did it
It's-
go? Who knows?
I don't know. I'd like to play as Chris Redfield, but okay. What is going on? What is going on with Capcom? Like, I know they're losing some money, but like, they kind of feel like the Fat Elvis video game companies right now. It's kind of sad.
Not
know?
to mention the reports a few years ago where they were going into the red when it came to revenue, which really set off some red flags in the industry, and people were saying, oh my god, is this the end of Capcom? And then started campaigning for them to sell off some of their assets to keep going, one of which was Mega Man, which, by the way, of course, they didn't do. Now with Mega Man, they're trying a second Legacy collection, if anybody cares. You were saying?
That hurts me more because I also know, why not just have a full collection?
Because they
I
want
hate
to
to
split
be a
it
dick.
into two.
You make a full collection, you put it on the Switch. That's the easiest money in the world, and they're just leaving it on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Because the collection for the second one includes games that people don't really care about. Like, 7 is the only game on that list that I legitimately enjoy, and I have big problems with it. 9's okay, but it was a throwback. It didn't really feel like a great game. So, I don't know. I don't know, man. I feel like that second collection is kind of a horrendous idea.
It pretty much is. And I'm not sure that any Mega Man fans are really looking forward to anything Mega Man related in the future now that Mighty Number 9 came along and just ruined everything. So,
Yeah.
the Mega Man series is in a very peculiar situation right now. I really think at this point they should have just sold it off to Nintendo, because it seems like Nintendo really, really wants to do good things with Mega Man, and I think we got a taste of that in Smash. Like, they seem to
what
really
is
respect
Capcom
Mega
doing?
Man.
Like, I see one successful franchise that is well received and well loved by its fans, and it's niche over here, which is Monster Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the new Monster Hunter looks fantastic. Can't wait to play it. I'd love to play it with you when it comes out on
Yeah,
the
we
PS4.
will.
It looks great.
We
That's
absolutely
about
will.
it. That's the entirety that company has. And it's, I'm not just saying, like, for my individual taste, that's all they have. I mean, it seems to be the only thing that's a profit. It seems like they have made so many mistakes, but their fighting games were the one thing they truly had.
Yeah,
So
they've
what
been
happened
blundering
there?
it. I don't know if, like, maybe their focus has just been, like, completely splintered. I don't know if there's, like, just an intercompany war with management and how they feel the direction of the company should be. Something is definitely going on. Now, granted, they hit a home run with Resident Evil, and putting it into a VR atmosphere was pure brilliance. That is going to make for a fantastic game. But who's to say when it comes around next time, they'll say, well, that game was very well received. It did great, but the budget was too high. We need to cut the budget, and we're going to put this new guy in charge of it, and then they'll just fuck it up again. It's absolutely possible for them to do that. And I don't get it.
I mean, they've said they weren't happy with the sales. They were expecting something more stupid. They were expecting Resident Evil 6 sales, not understanding the concept that it's not because people didn't want your game, it's that they were burned out by the past couple games that you made that they didn't like.
Yeah, this
like
should be
Revelation
considered...
2 was And they also really rushed the promotion for Resident Evil 7. How many people were excited versus that could be good, but I haven't seen enough.
Right. Not to mention, you got a chance to play the demo for Resident Evil 7, right?
I hated that demo.
It was nothing like the game.
Not a thing.
You couldn't tell anything from that demo versus the actual game. No wonder nobody was excited. How could you tell?
I thought it was a PT clone. And then you play it, and I'm like, oh wait, this is actually closer to Resident Evil 1.
That's what I thought.
Like
I thought it was a PT clone. And then I started playing it, I'm like, wow, there's a whole lot of aspects of the first Resident Evil in this game. This is actually really good.
Now, I have a second mind on that. There's a part of me that says, I'm really glad they undersold it, because what bigger surprise could have there ever been? Like, the beginning of that game is truly amazing. Like, that game, while not being my game of the year, is certainly on my list of nominees.
Mm-hmm.
No question.
Yeah,
because that is one of the greatest openings ever. Like the first two, all the way up to the garage, is like this heart-poundingly brilliant thing. And it doesn't even go downhill in quality, it just quiets down after that, and it kind of lets you just take it in. But you didn't get sales that way, because people just didn't have trust at that point. And now the sales are coming in, but a lot of people are waiting for the literally the sales to get it, because it's just kind of older now. It's weird how games age, where it only takes like 2 or 3 months and then a game is old. I don't understand how that works, but whatever. So a lot of people are just waiting to buy it, which is kind of a shame. I feel like it's bleeding them a little money, but they made $4 million, which is a lot to me on a game, but they're not happy with. Or no, 4 million copies sold, not $4 million. Blah. But Resident Evil 6 sold 6 million because everyone was ready to assume it was brilliant.
I think that's just so short-sighted. It's rebuilding the franchise, and that's going to take time.
It's hangover syndrome.
Are
you familiar with that? Okay, you are familiar with the expression.
Yeah.
Hangover 1, fucking great movie. So they make a sequel, and the sequel sells tons, but everyone hates it. So they make a third movie, and then no one sees it, even though it's a good movie. But no one cares anymore because 2 was bad.
Right.
I feel like Resident Evil's in that.
It's going to take a lot of time to rebuild simply because of like the shit sandwiches that were served in the past. Anybody who wants to know my full opinion on it, because I can't tell you everything I think about the game in this podcast alone, check out the Codec, where Dean and I talked about it. And there will be a part 2 where we talk about the ending of the game. But I digress. I really enjoyed it. I thought that there were really some great aspects of Resident Evil 1 and 2 in the game, especially when I compared Immortal Jack to Mr. X from Resident Evil 2. They really, really went into it and wrote a love letter to the people who loved the original Resident Evil games. And are not happy with it.
It's my 4th favorite game this year, which sounds bad, but like it's above Persona, and I loved Persona. That just speaks to how good this year has been for video games.
Now, yeah,
it's really hard to pick.
That's huge for you, because you have been singing the praises of Persona for months.
Yeah, and it's my 5th favorite. That's how good this year is.
Very good.
But yeah, the point is, should have sold more, even though it sold a ton. But Capcom's not happy because they have like $3 in the bank, and they used it to make that Chun-Li model, and now everyone's upset about how bad it looks.
I think in the end, they're still going to get some sales with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, but I'm going to make this bold prediction right now on the show, so we can look back and see how correct I was. Even though I think it's going to sell, I think it will sell less than Street Fighter V.
Oh, I don't know if I agree, and I'll tell you why. It has more than one platform. Because it's also on Xbox.
No, I'm completely aware of that.
At the same token, like, fans of Marvel already hate it. Like, this is a game that is coming out already negative.
Mm-hmm. That's why
before they even had a chance to do anything. So I don't know.
I think it will be a dud. In terms of it, the hardcore players, like the pros and the wannabe pros, they'll buy it, of course. You'll have the casuals who might like go to Redbox or GameFly or something, and they'll try it. Or they'll try it at a friend's house and be like, no, fuck no, and then they won't buy it. It's going to have some people who will buy it and then say, nah, to hell with this, and then they'll go sell it to GameStop, and somebody will, buy it there on the cheap, or cheaper than new. It's not going to have a good circulation. I think it's going to have a lot of problems.
And it also had a very poor demo that people didn't enjoy playing. And I think that's also going to hurt it. Because, like, did you play the demo for Marvel?
Didn't care.
The free one? Well, I did. And here's the problem. It's against AI. There's, like, 5 matches. But it's so skewed for you to win. I mean, like, they don't even really attack. So you don't get to really feel any of the characters because it's just so fast of a demo. And you could probably replay it over and over again. But it just gives a bad feeling.
You get to choose the characters?
No.
Oh, that's bad.
But even then, like, you're fighting characters that, like, for comparison on how fast it goes down, imagine they have, like, 25% health when the match starts.
Oh, jeez.
And they don't really attack much.
That's really
And you have an auto combo. So when you get into the fight, you're just going to mash the one button and you'll do your auto combo. Unlike how Arc System Works does an auto combo, you do full damage with an auto combo in Marvel. Which is just fucking awful.
Yeah, that sounds bad.
So immediately, yeah, it was probably the worst possible demo for that game. And it ain't good. I'm worried for Capcom, man. I'm worried they're going to go out of business. But hey, if we want to buy Devil May Cry and give it to Platinum, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Start selling some of those assets before the ship goes down. Sell Devil May Cry to Platinum because that's kind of their style anyway. Nintendo.
Well, I mean, it's literally Konami, but
yeah. And
That...
Nintendo wants to do wonderful things with Mega Man. We saw that clear as day with the way they treated him in Smash. So send Mega Man over to Nintendo. I'm sure they would want him. And just who would Monster Hunter go to?
Just let him have that one game.
Oh, they're doing Monster Hunter right so they can keep it.
Yeah, that's the only series that is profitable that they haven't fucked up. Everyone seems pretty happy with Monster Hunter.
Sell Resident Evil to Konami.
I hate you.
They'll kill it just like they killed Silent Hill.
Don't even remind me that... Oh, speaking of Konami, I do have one thing I want to address. That Castlevania show.
Oh, yeah.
You see it?
I've heard crazy good things about it. I want to catch it after this, actually.
Well, here's the thing. One, I think it's good because Konami had absolutely no involvement with it. I'm pretty sure they're not even making much money from it either. This is clearly more of a Netflix project than it is a Konami thing. Because first of all, it's made in America. It's an American cartoon. And second, it just seems to have a better understanding about what Castlevania means than what any of the people at Konami think it means. Because if you looked at the pachinko machines and the fighting game Judgment, it's pretty clear that after Igarashi left, they don't know what the fuck Castlevania is anymore.
I played that fighting game, the one on Wii.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, dear God, that was awful.
They don't know what Castlevania is, man. But the Netflix show got it. Now, it's cheesy as hell, or corny. Corny's more accurate.
Oh,
It's very, it's a little pompous, and I could totally see why people have a problem with it, because it's very JoJo. It's very much a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure inspired show.
oh well, hell, I want to
But-
watch it now then.
However, like JoJo, if you just want to have a good fucking time, you're gonna have a great time with Castlevania.
Will then.
It only has one problem, but it will be a solved problem. It's
What's
too
that?
short and clearly leading up for the other season. What is there is not satisfactory at all. You're getting to the meat, but you're not at the meat at all when you're watching the show. It's set up. Now, season 2 is already ordered, and they're going to make 8 episodes, which will probably be the meat of it. The show is entirely based off of Castlevania 3 specifically, and I like that they're doing that because it's
So
very...
we'll have a la carte and everything.
Uh-huh.
Okay, good.
It's a story of Trevor Belmont, and it's a more interesting story to do than Simon, because Trevor had an actual journey going to the location. It is earlier in the timeline. It has familiar characters in it, and it's not just Guy in Castle. It kind of sets up some of the lore going on in Castlevania.
Awesome.
And it's dumb. I totally understand people that like are frustrated by some of the lines. I mean, like, this is a show where the main character says, "I'm Trevor fucking Belmont." Literally that sentence. But at the same time, I don't hold Castlevania necessarily to be this artistic thing. Castlevania is a series that has ranged in quality since its inception to the point where I don't... People forget this. Technically, the Van Helsing video game based off the movie is canon to Castlevania. Because there is a... in that game, there is a reference to the fact that Van Helsing is a Belmont.
Really?
Which is hilarious. Yeah. And therefore, that is canon. Castlevania is one of those things that is fun, but it's never been... it's never been like this deep thing. The deepest it ever got was Symphony of the Night, and even then, I mean, there was a lot of corniness to it. And I don't know, you're familiar with the Selma Cruz games, right?
No.
The GBA, like Aria of Sorrow?
No.
Okay, can I spoil a GBA Castlevania game?
Okay, go for it.
In Aria of Sorrow, you play as a transfer student, so you play as a Japanese student, in Japan, and in the far future, like 400 years from now, Dracula's castle shows up in Japan, and it turns out that even though you were the transfer student, you're a reincarnated Dracula.
What?
But you forgot who you were. So now Dracula is this fucking high school kid, and he's just like, I'm not gonna be evil. Like, I love that game, but it's kind of really stupid. It's really stupid, and that was an Igarashi game too, so that totally fits into it counts. So I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like my point is Castlevania is not something above a good F-bomb.
No. I would say it's not. But we got to wrap this up. We are hitting the 1 hour mark here. So
Good.
the takeaway we have here is definitely watch the Castlevania series on Netflix
Yeah.
if you haven't had a chance. Looks like it's going to be awesome. I know I'm going to watch it as soon as we're done with this. Along with that, Capcom, what the hell you doing? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
We'll never
and support
know. Yeah, and support
with your
Crash. Support Crash. Crash is back, doing what Crash does, being a really good platformer game. So that's been the Reset Button. I'm Patrick. That's been Eric. You got any last words over there?
Mother 3 and Stormblood.
Oh, it got in. It got in. What can you do? So I said I was going to plug this at the end one more time. So anybody who likes following us on SoundCloud and catching all of the episodes we have all on one account, we are set to renew next month. And we really need your help to do that. It is about $130. So if we can't reach that goal, then unfortunately we're going to have to break it into separate accounts, which does no good for anybody who wants to follow it all in one. So we might even do like a big streaming fundraiser if necessary, but we really need your support, and we would greatly appreciate it if you can. So thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.